Welcome to the final episode of Figure Focus, where I, SCL Matt, focus on the figures of one character in the Skylanders franchise. This week, Spyro.
All fired up.
For being the dragon that started it all, Spyro is not as prevalent in the series as you might expect. Really, he was just there to jumpstart a new franchise while other characters took more of the spotlight. Spyro got his Series 1 figure right away in Spyro's Adventure. I mean, it would be weird if he wasn't there, right? We also got 3 variant figures in Year 1 as well. This includes the Dark, Legendary, and Chrome variants. But then they really pulled back in Year 2. For Skylanders Giants, we got a Series 2 Spyro, but absolutely no variants to go along with it. Year 3 with Swap Force, we got the 3rd iteration of Spyro. This was Mega Ram Spyro. This version did get a variant, but surprisingly, it was another Dark Spyro. Spyro is the only character in the entire franchise to get a second version in this same variant line. Now, I know that there will probably be some discussion that Series 1 Dark Spyro is actually a separate character and not just simply a color variant, but that's not what I'm here to discuss today. From a collector's point of view, there are simply 2 Dark Spyro figures, and unfortunately, that causes some confusion. Moving on to Skylanders Trap Team, Spyro was hit with a shrinking ray, and we got the mini version, Spry. And finally, in Year 4, we also got Jan's Elite Spyro. Those are the 9 Spyro figures that were released at retail or through trade shows and other means. But I actually have 10 Spyro figures in my collection. We'll cover that bonus figure a little bit more in a minute. First, we need to get to the rarity check. He's the dragon that started it all. They named the game after him, so it only makes sense that Series 1 Spyro is in the Spyro's Adventure starter pack. This also means that this figure is very, very common. Anyone and everyone willing to give the game a try in 2011 had to buy this figure. This is one of the most common figures you'll find at used game stores nowadays. I bet there was a lot of discussion concerning Spyro moving into Year 2. They pushed him heavily during Spyro's Adventure, which makes sense. But now they wanted to back off. Yet they didn't want to abandon him entirely. Series 2 Spyro obviously exists, but he wasn't released until Wave 4. The supply of Wave 4 figures that make it out to the public is significantly lower than the first 3 waves. Now technically Spyro was released again in Wave 5 in a triple pack with Series 2 Bash and Hot Dog. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. Wave 5 triple packs basically don't exist. By the time Wave 5 hits, stores are ready to move on from the game. All the figures in the triple pack have already been released in a single pack or another form, and so there's nothing new to sell. These packs take up a lot of space on the shelf, and some stores honestly just never get them in stock. So with a minimal Wave 4 and a practically non-existent Wave 5 release, Series 2 Spyro was definitely hard to come by for a long time. Now, over the years, much of the backstock has found its way out of the stores and warehouses, but Series 2 Spyro still remains one of the tougher standard figures to find in Giants. On the other hand, the standard Series 3 or Mega Ram Spyro was plentiful. There was a Wave 1 release of both the single and triple packs. And eventually, years later, we would see this figure again in one of the Champions packs. There were more than enough to go around. Spry, along with Mini Genie, came in the double pack right away in Wave 1 of Trap Team, so that one wasn't hard to get either. Let's check out some of the variants though. Legendary Spyro, as with all Legendary figures, was a Toys R Us exclusive. This figure was a part of the Legendary triple pack. It wasn't hard to find as long as you lived near a Toys R Us. The Series 1 Dark Spyro was also technically not hard to find, but it may have been harder to acquire for many kids, as you were required to buy another starter pack for a console that you might not even own. Dark Spyro was exclusive to the 3DS starter pack. So if you wanted this pack for just the one figure, $70 was a big ask. At some point though, Series 1 Dark Spyro did get a single pack release. However, this release seems limited to the UK. So more of this figure did enter the market, but the limited release did not necessarily help with the overall supply. Swap Force introduced us to the idea of a Dark Edition starter pack, and this is where you could get your hands on the Series 3 Dark Spyro. For Swap Force, the Dark Edition was a GameStop exclusive pack. With GameStop locations all over the country at the time, far more plentiful than Toys R Us even, this pack was pretty easy to find regardless of it being a store exclusive. Similarly, the Eon's Elite figure was also a GameStop exclusive, so it was easy enough to find as long as you were willing to spend the money. Finally, we have Chrome Spyro, the only non-in-game variant we ever saw for Spyro, and it was never sold in stores. Chrome Spyro was handed out at E3 in 2012. E3 was primarily a trade show, so this figure, which was already in short supply, was distributed to members of the media, most of which did not really care about or collect Skylanders figures. Over time though, these figures have found their way into the hands of fans and collectors. Naturally, this is often the most expensive and hard to find Spyro figure people talk about. But, as I mentioned earlier, I have one more Spyro figure to talk about today. And this figure absolutely destroys Chrome Spyro in terms of rarity and value. This is my single pack Spyro's Adventure E3 Spyro. If you hear me mention E3 Spyro, I'm likely talking about this figure. This E3 Spyro is from 2011. This is a figure that was mailed out to members of the media prior to the E3 show that year. Skylanders were just being introduced and they were trying to build some hype. They wanted to encourage media members to come to the booth and try out the game, fall in love with it, and spread the word. I think it's safe to say it worked. In any case, what's special about this figure? Well, honestly, there's nothing special about the figure itself. The figure doesn't even function with the final version of the game. It only worked with the demo version of the game they had at E3 in 2011. What's special is the packaging. Many folks don't even know that a single pack of Spyro ever existed. They also made single packs of Trigger Happy and Gil Grunt, and those are just as rare. You see, these figures were intended to be brought to Activision's booth at the show. They wanted you to open them up and play with the figure on the demo. So the vast majority of the packaging from these figures was ripped open, thrown away, and is sitting in a landfill somewhere. This is the only single pack Spyro I have ever seen in my life. I know one person who has a single pack Trigger Happy, and we're still on the search for that single pack Gil Grunt. Honestly, I fear that that package may no longer exist. But that's it. That's all the Spyro figures I have for you. And that brings us to the end of the Figure Focus series. So once again, as always, happy hunting.